Imagine for a moment the hypothetical scenario where you're a very, very high powered judge at the pinnacle of your profession, on the verge of achieving legendary status in your field. But you've had a rough go of it in the public eye. A former coworker of yours said that you sexually assaulted them. Other former coworkers said that you used to share all sorts of profane and inappropriate things at work. An ex-girlfriend of yours says that you used to paper the walls of your apartment with pornographic pictures. Now imagine you have a current coworker who had a similar tough time of it in the public eye, accused in their job interview of sexually assaulting them when they were a teenager, forcing them to think about things that they don't want to revisit from their past. And instead of showing that they have the temperament to be a judge alongside you, started shouting about someone with seemingly unrelated crimes. A woman and a man who used to be heavily involved in politics, and said that those two people were out to get them. That coworker has probably expressed their frustration that they had heard all about this woman and man involved in politics before. They knew they had done something terrible but could never find a smoking gun. And it bothered them. It really bothered your coworker that the independent counsel that they worked for could never quite get there. Now imagine you hear about another very well-funded independent prosecutor who's trying to prosecute someone who's probably involved in that same international sex trafficking ring with those two politicians that your coworker was so disturbed by. And they have the same powers that your coworker's former boss had, and could find all sorts of other things if they really put their mind to it. Now imagine you had reached out, unbidden, unprompted, unasked. You'd reached out to the judge that took that slam dunk case and strongly suggested to that judge that that prosecutor was illegally empowered and should not even be able to investigate anything involving that person. But despite your best efforts, you could not get any of your coworkers to make that suggestion along with you. Now, last thing I want you to imagine, I promise, is that two supposed victims of that international sex trafficking ring piped up. One said that they heard your name mentioned at these multiple days-long parties that got worse and worse and worse and worse. But they could not recall how long you had stayed, just that the attendees of that party were very, very excited that you had been given your job. And another one of those people who claimed that they're a victim piped up and said that they were assaulted one time by someone who was involved in this international sex trafficking ring. And that person, in the process of assaulting them, took out a camera, took a picture of them, and said that picture was for you. And you see it in the eyes of every lawyer who argues in front of you, that they know all about this, but you know that they're forced by the incentives of their position, the incentives of their job, never to say or let on that they know about any of it. But you know that every time that they read your opinions protecting a certain man that independent prosecutor had been investigating, that they're not listening to any legal argument that you're making. They just look at the incentives of power, the incentives of compromising information. And they're not thinking of your qualifications to be in that job anymore. They're thinking about what you may have known 30 years ago, 35 years ago. It's got to feel terrible.